I woke up shivering. The cabin was pitch black, the fire in the old stone fireplace long dead. My head throbbed, and for a moment, I couldn't remember where I was. Then it hit me. Montana. The cabin trip. The epic weekend Brady had planned for all of us. I sat up, pulling the scratchy blanket tighter around my shoulders. The wind howled outside, rattling the wooden shutters. I fumbled for my phone, no service. Not even a single bar. Figures. We were in the middle of nowhere, hours from the nearest real town. Guys, I called out into the darkness. No answer. My voice bounced off the log walls, the only reply the creaking of old timber. I slid off the couch, feeling my way to the front door. Locked. From the outside. Panic pricked at the edges of my mind. I yanked harder, but it wouldn't budge. Someone had bolted it shut. My heart started to race. What the hell was going on? Then I heard it. Laughing. Far off at first, then growing louder. Familiar voices, Brady. Jesse. Tyler. Maddie. I pushed against the window and caught a glimpse of headlights bouncing down the dirt road. Their pickup truck roaring away, leaving nothing but dust and freezing night air behind. No way, I breathed. They didn't. They wouldn't. But they did. They locked me inside this freezing cabin and left. Maybe it was supposed to be a joke. Maybe they thought I'd laugh about it later, post some haha story on Instagram about being pranked in the woods. But standing there, barefoot, freezing, staring out into the endless black of Montana wilderness, it didn't feel like a joke. It felt like betrayal. Tears threatened, but I swallowed them down. I wasn't about to give them the satisfaction, even if they weren't here to see it. I turned back into the cabin, searching for anything useful. A dim emergency light over the kitchen sink blinked weakly. On the cracked counter, under a pile of takeout napkins, I found it. The spare keys to the Ford Explorer. They were dumb enough to take the truck but leave the SUV. A plan began to form, sharp and dangerous. If they thought it was funny to leave me behind, maybe it was time I left them too. Only I wasn't sticking around for their punchline. I was writing my own ending. For a few minutes, I just stood there, clutching the keys, listening to the howling wind claw at the windows. Every part of me wanted to believe this was some dumb prank, that in a few minutes they'd come roaring back, drunk and laughing, ready to let me in and call it all hilarious. But they weren't coming back. And even if they did, what then? Laugh it off? Pretend it didn't cut deep? Shrink myself a little smaller again, just to keep the peace like always? Screw that. I dug through the drawers until I found a half-dead flashlight and slipped it into my jacket pocket. My boots were still by the door. At least they hadn't taken everything. I jammed my feet into them, grabbed the keys, and yanked open the back door that led to the shed. It stuck from the cold, but after a solid kick, it groaned open. The Ford Explorer sat like a forgotten treasure in the snow-dusted driveway, almost daring me. I trudged through the ankle-deep snow, popped the lock, and climbed inside. My hands trembled a little as I shoved the key into the ignition. The engine sputtered once, twice, then roared to life. Warmth blasted from the vents, washing over me like a promise. I glanced back at the cabin one last time. Tiny, dark, abandoned. The place they thought was funny to leave me locked inside. The place they figured I'd sit, shivering and humiliated, waiting for them to decide when the joke was over. Not tonight. I shifted into drive and slowly rolled down the rutted dirt road, careful not to skid on the patches of black ice. In the rearview mirror, the cabin grew smaller and smaller, swallowed by the endless woods. I didn't have a solid plan yet. I didn't know exactly where the nearest town was. Whitefish, maybe? I remembered seeing signs earlier. But it didn't matter. Anywhere was better than staying there. As the miles unspooled under my tires, a strange calm settled over me. Not just calm, power. They thought I'd sit there and wait. They thought I'd laugh it off, like always. They didn't realize they'd just given me the best gift of my life. An excuse to walk away. To leave them behind the same way they left me. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't the butt of the joke. I was the one writing the ending. They came back laughing. Jesse leaned out the window of the pickup, waving her beer like some cheap movie villain. "Hope you didn't freeze your ass off too bad, Ratch." She hollered into the night air as Brady cut the headlights and pulled into the clearing. Their laughter died instantly. The cabin sat dark and empty. No lights inside. No SUV outside. Brady killed the engine, confusion clouding his face. "Where's the Explorer?" Jessie leaned forward, squinting into the dark. She wouldn't take it, would she? Maddie opened her door slowly, boots crunching against the frozen ground. "She's gotta be inside. Maybe she's hiding to mess with us." But her voice lacked conviction. They all piled out, stomping toward the cabin, Jessie giggling nervously. Tyler banged on the door. "All right, Rachel, joke's over. You proved your point." Silence. Just the wind. Brady circled around to the back. Found the shed door cracked open, snow blowing inside. He turned back, his face pale. "She's gone." His voice was flat, almost disbelieving. Panic started leaking into the cracks. Tyler tried his phone. No service. Maddie's was dead. Jessie stomped her foot like a toddler. "She can't just leave us here." Brady spun on her. Well, maybe she didn't think she had a choice. The cold was already gnawing at their faces, the early winter wind sharp and merciless. Inside the cabin, it wasn't much better. The fire was out, and no one had thought to bring extra firewood. A pile of soggy logs sat outside, half buried under fresh snow. Tyler cursed under his breath, pacing. "This is bad, man. We're like, what, 30 miles from town? No cell signal? No ride?" Maddie wrapped her arms around herself, teeth chattering. "She'll come back, right? Once she cools off." Nobody answered. Deep down, they all knew. Rachel wasn't coming back. Brady kicked over a chair, sending it skittering across the cabin floor. Jessie started crying, half from cold, half from fear. Outside, the wind picked up, carrying with it the first real snowfall of the season. Heavy, relentless, blanketing the road, erasing tracks. By the time the morning came, even if someone went looking for them, it would be almost impossible to find the path. They were well and truly stranded now. Exactly the way they'd meant for Rachel to feel. Only now it wasn't funny anymore. The cabin grew colder by the hour. At first, they tried to tough it out. Jessie wrapped herself in every blanket she could find, huddled by the cold fireplace. Tyler raided the pantry, coming up with 2 cans of expired chili and half a bag of stale tortilla chips. "This is all we have," Brady snapped, rifling through empty drawers like the food would magically appear. Jessie sniffled. "We weren't supposed to need supplies, Brady. It was supposed to be a prank, remember?" The argument started small, sharp whispers slicing the air. Then it grew. Brady accused Tyler of encouraging him. Tyler blamed Jessie for locking the door in the first place. Maddie tried to calm everyone down, but her voice was lost under the shouting. Meanwhile, the temperature kept dropping. By midnight, desperation set in. The last of the firewood had burned out, leaving nothing but weak embers. Their breath fogged in front of their faces. The inside of the windows frosted over. Tyler decided to venture outside to search for dry wood. He barely made it 10 steps before slipping on black ice and crashing hard onto his elbow. "Shit!" he yelled, cradling his arm. It wasn't broken, but it swelled fast, turning an angry purple. Maddie tried to make a sling out of an old dish towel, but it was clumsy at best. The reality settled on them like the cold. They weren't getting through this night without help. And there was no help coming. Jessie grew increasingly panicked, her lips turning blue. She rocked back and forth near the fireplace, muttering about frostbite and wolves. Brady tried to stay calm, but his hands trembled from more than just the cold now. "This is insane," he muttered. "We have to do something." But there was nothing to do. No phones. No car. No way to hike out. Not without risking getting lost in the storm that was now blanketing the woods in thick, blinding snow. Around 2 a.m., Brady cracked. He shoved open the door and tried trudging down the road in the general direction of town, thinking if he could just get a mile or 2, maybe he could flag someone down. He made it less than a quarter mile before the snow swallowed him. His jeans soaked through. His sneakers, not boots. Sneakers, offered no protection against the icy ground. By the time he stumbled back to the cabin, shivering violently, his face was raw and wind-burned, his pride shattered. They ended up crowding together on the floor, pressed side by side for warmth, sharing whatever body heat they could manage. Every hour felt like a year. The cold seeped into their bones, into their lungs, numbing everything except the gnawing regret. By dawn, they weren't talking anymore. There was nothing left to say. Rachel was gone. And they were trapped in the mess they created, a joke that had turned into their worst nightmare. I didn't stop driving until the cabin, and everything that had happened there was a distant memory in my rearview mirror. By the time I rolled into Whitefish, Montana, the snow was falling softer, gentler, dusting the charming little town like powdered sugar. I pulled into the first motel I saw, a faded blue sign that read, Timberline Lodge, vacancy, and parked the Explorer crookedly across 2 spots. Not like I planned on staying long enough for anyone to care. Inside, the lobby smelled like burnt coffee and wood polish. The woman at the front desk didn't ask questions. She just slid over a key and a laminated map of town with a polite, tired smile. Room 8. No frills, but it had heat, and it was mine for the night. I dropped my bag on the bed, sat down, and let the silence wrap around me. For the first time in hours, maybe days, the tension in my chest started to loosen. I wasn't stranded. I wasn't trapped. I wasn't powerless. I was free. Later, I found a small diner still open, its windows glowing like a beacon against the snowy night. I slid into a booth and ordered the greasiest burger on the menu, along with fries and a giant cup of coffee. As I ate, I thought about it, everything. The friends I'd clung to for years, even when their jokes cut a little too deep. The way I'd laughed off their cruelty to stay included. The way I let them decide what was funny, what was acceptable, what was okay, even when it clearly wasn't. I used to tell myself it was better to have a toxic group than no group at all. Tonight proved just how wrong I'd been. Somewhere between the second cup of coffee and the last cold fry, I made a decision. I pulled out my phone, the screen lighting up with 1,000 missed notifications from Brady, Jesse, Tyler, Maddie. Angry texts, guilty ones. Some even pretending nothing had happened at all. I powered it off without replying. Instead, I called someone who actually mattered, my cousin Hannah in Seattle. Someone who had never treated me like a joke. Her voice crackled through the line, bright and warm. Rachel? Oh my God. Where have you been? Are you okay? I swallowed hard, feeling my throat tighten. I'm good, I said. And for once, I meant it. But I think I need a change. A real one. Hannah didn't hesitate. Get your ass out here. Stay with me. Start over. Whatever you need. The kindness nearly undid me, but I held it together. Because this time, I wasn't the victim. I wasn't the punchline. I was the one finally choosing better. 2 days later, the story hit the local news. I was sitting in the motel room, half-packed, sipping terrible coffee from a styrofoam cup, when the headline popped up on my phone. 4 tourists rescued after being stranded near Glacier National Park. I clicked the link, heart thudding once. Not out of fear, but something closer to grim satisfaction. The article said they'd been found by a snowmobile patrol after hikers spotted smoke from the cabin's chimney. Mild hypothermia. Dehydration. 1 minor injury. They were lucky, honestly. It could have been worse. Much worse. I scrolled down and saw a blurry photo. Jesse wrapped in an emergency blanket, Brady scowling at the cameras, Tyler looking miserable. Maddie staring at the ground. They looked like hell. And for once, I didn't feel guilty. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. Texts poured in from Brady first. WEF, Rachel? How could you leave us? You could have gotten us killed. Come on, we were just messing around. You didn't have to freak out. Jesse's messages were even worse. Half pleading, half blaming. Maddie's were quieter. Just one. I'm sorry. I didn't know they were going to take it that far. I stared at the screen, letting the words sink in. The gaslighting. The guilt tripping. The complete inability to recognize that they'd started this, not me. Slowly, I typed a reply. Just 5 words. You left me first. Goodbye. Then I blocked all of them. Every number. Every account. Gone. I tossed the phone onto the bed and let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. The relief was instant, sweeping through me like clean, cold air. Not fear. Not sadness. Freedom. Out the window, the streets of Whitefish were starting to thaw, the heavy snow melting into crisp puddles under a clear blue sky. Change was coming. Not just outside, but in me, too. 2 weeks later, I crossed into Seattle with everything I owned stuffed into the back of the Explorer. It wasn't much, some clothes, my laptop, a few notebooks, but it felt like more than enough. I wasn't running away anymore. I was starting over. On my own terms this time. Hannah greeted me with a giant hug and a "thank God you're here" that almost made me cry. She'd cleared out her guest room for me, left fresh sheets on the bed, even taped a goofy little handwritten note to the door. Rachel's fresh start, no jerks allowed. The first night in her apartment, I slept like a rock. No anxiety dreams. No checking my phone every 5 minutes. Just quiet. Solid rest, the kind you get when you're not waiting for someone else to turn on you. Over the next few days, life took on a new rhythm. Coffee runs with Hannah. Walks through Pike Place Market. Breathing in the smell of salt water and fresh bread. Interviews for freelance design gigs. Simple things. Things that felt mine in a way nothing had for a long, long time. I even started going through my old contact list. Friends I hadn't talked to in years. People I'd let drift because certain friends made me feel like I didn't need anyone else. Slowly, I started rebuilding. Not just a career or a social circle, but a self I actually liked. One evening, I found myself sitting on Hannah's tiny balcony, wrapped in a borrowed hoodie, sipping cheap wine from a mason jar. The city lights glittered across the bay. The air was cold but clean. I could hear faint laughter drifting up from the street below. Somebody else's friends. Somebody else's life. I wasn't jealous. I wasn't bitter. I was free. For the first time, I wasn't trapped by fear or loneliness or loyalty to people who didn't deserve it. I wasn't someone's sidekick. Or someone's punching bag. I was just Rachel Carter. Whole. Enough. Strong in ways I didn't even know I could be. And as I leaned back against the balcony rail, looking up at the stars punching through the night sky, I smiled to myself. Sometimes you lose fake friends to find your real life. And sometimes you lose the old version of yourself to find the one who is always waiting underneath, ready to finally be seen.